All right, so today we're going to talk about the area of circles. Now, first, to understand area of circles, you need to understand what area is. So, there are a couple different ways I like to describe area. Okay, area is like, for example, if you're sitting on near a desk right now, all the area, the surface of that desk is the area, right? Where the tabletop part is the area. The distance around is like the perimeter or like the circumference, like we talked about yesterday. So if you think about it, another good example I like to use is paint. If you ever painted anything, like painted a wall, the area is what you need to paint, right? All the wall that you need to paint is the area. You have to make sure you have enough paint to cover that area. Or when you guys, were little, or maybe you still do, when you're coloring, you would color in the spaces, in the lines. Hopefully, you're a good color, and that's the area that you would cover, the inside. So it's kind of like the space that's on the inside. So the circumference is the distance around, just kind of like putting a fence around, and the area is all the stuff that's on the inside, right? The space is taken up on the inside. So for just like yesterday we had a formula for circumference. Today we have a formula for area. Okay, we have a formula for area. So this is it. Let's write this down. Here is the area of a circle formula. Area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Okay, pi times the radius squared. And remember, okay, for pi, we're going to use 3.14, and the r stands for the radius. Okay, so the formula again is area is equal to pi times radius squared. So if you know the radius of a circle, you know the area. You can find out the area. Now, there'll be some times where I might give you the diameter, and you have to find the radius first. But that's kind of the main thing. Okay, so let's do some problems. Let's do some examples. And we're going to see again, just like yesterday. Once you get it, you just plug it in, and then you're good to go. So, letter A. Find the area of this circle. We'll draw a circle. And we'll say this is 4 inches. Wow. So you're gonna do this one with me, okay? Let's do this one with me. First of all, we have to understand this right here, because it doesn't go all the way across. This is a radius, right? So I know that our radius is equal to 4. Okay, 4 inches. So now let's again use the formula. Now, some people will get confused. It's easy to get confused between yesterday's formula and today's formula. Okay, yesterday's formula was C equals pi d, pi times diameter. Today's formula is area is equal to pi times radius squared. Now, here's a really good way to understand this formula. If you think about area, think of it in terms of squares. Okay, think of it in terms of squares. It's got to, so for example, what I'm saying is, if I want to know how big the circle is, really, I'm going to say, what if I had, how many squares could I fit in there? That's what you're asking yourself. How much space fits in? Okay, now we don't have to count all that, so we're going to use a formula, right? And notice, because I said squared, and this is squared right here, squares, right? That's how I like to think about it. Area is always squared, because if you said, hey, that thing is 10 inches, you think of just one length. If I say 10 inches squared or 10 square inches, I think of squares, like blocks that are going around, right? So area is always squared, okay? Squared. If you see a squared, you're talking about area, okay, in terms of geometry. Okay, so that's the question, is how many squares fit in. That's when if you look around your room and you look at the wall, like if I was to paint your wall, you'd have to think, how many squares would I have to fill in to do that? You don't think of just a straight line. Okay, so here we go. Let's plug in the numbers. We know that pi is 3.14. And we know that our radius is 4. But it's going to be radius squared. Now remember, squared does not mean 4 times 2. Squared means 4 times 4. Okay? 4 times 4. So, okay, what that means is this is going to be 4 times 4. So not 8, it's going to be 16. So I'm going to multiply 16 times 3.14. This is where I get my calculator out. Go ahead and get your calculator and multiply those. And you should get 50 point, let me do it here, 3.24. Now, the units are going to be inches squared, right? Squared because you're talking about that's how many squares you have. So if I was to count all these, right, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There'd be 50.24 of those squares in my circle. That's how you do area. That's it. Just plug in the numbers. What do you think? Not too bad? Let's give you guys an example and try it, okay? Find the area of this circle. Okay? It doesn't look like a very good circle, but still. All right, to find the area of that circle. All right, very good. Go ahead and put in the chat once you think you got it. Thank you. Good job. All right, we're doing really well. So far, everyone in the chat's been correct. That's good. And I want you to practice putting the right units too, okay? So it's a little bit hard to type out the units, so I understand that, but in general, on your writing at least. All right, we have a few more seconds. Try it. All right, here we go. Let's try it. So again, area is equal to pi times radius squared. So instead of pi, we're going to put 3.14 instead of radius. Okay, my radius here is 7, so I'm going to put 7 squared. Again, 7 squared is not 14, right? 7 squared is 7 times 7. So let's just plug that into our calculators. Even if you know it, you can still plug it into calculators. 7 squared is 49. I'm going to multiply that by 3.14. And I get, put that in your calculator if you haven't already, 153.86. And then my unit is feet, but not just feet, it should be feet squared or square feet. All right, that's why we always measure area in square footage, right? Square feet. How many square feet is it? So 153.86. On the IXL, you don't need to round, so we'll just leave it just like that. Pretty good? Not bad, right? Okay. Let's get into ones that are a little bit harder. All right. Can you find the area of this shape? Got to be careful on this one. Remember what the formula says. Go ahead and put in the chat once you think you got it. All right. Give you guys a few more seconds on this one. This one's a little bit tricky. All right, now there's two answers that I'm getting in the chat and two answers I'm seeing. I'm seeing 314 and I'm seeing 78.5. All right, so which one's correct? Let's take a look. Here's my question. For the formula, do I need the radius or do I need the diameter? Do I need the radius or the diameter? The next question to that one, after that, is did I give you a radius or a diameter? Oh, I see. Okay, so remember the formula is area is equal to pi times radius squared. This is not a radius. 10 is not a radius. That's a diameter. So my R is actually not 10, but 5. Does that make sense? Isn't the radius, right? We learned that yesterday, right? Radius is half a diameter. It's only halfway. So from here to here is 5 centimeters. That's a radius. Oh, tricky, Mr. Leong. Yes. You have to pay attention to what the formula requires. And again, just think about the D and the R. If you can figure out, and I would recommend if I give you the diameter for you to write down the radius, even if you don't need it, even if it's a circumference problem, right? This is like we did yesterday, right? When I gave you a radius, I said find the circumference, you had to double it, right? You had to multiply it by 2 to find the diameter first. So now let's do the work, okay? Let's do the work. So we know pi is 3.14. And again, the radius is not 10, but 5. Now, some of you got 31.4. I think you did 5 times 2. Again, 5 squared is 25, right? 5 times 5 is 25. Times 3.14. And you should have gotten 78.5 centimeters squared. Does that make sense? Do you guys see what mistake you kind of made, right? There's a difference between diameter and radius. You have to use the right one, okay? Even if I give you the wrong one, you have to be able to figure out the right one. That's kind of like the extra higher level thinking there to figure that out, okay? All right, so let's try another one here. Find the area if D is equal to 18 yards. Find the area of the circle if D is equal to 18 yards. All right. So far, so good. Keep putting them in the chat. See, and I'll let you know how we're doing here. And the great thing about formulas, they're kind of like recipes, right? Like once you have a recipe and you get the right ingredients, then you just got to put it all together, right? So it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to think about it. You just say, oh, flour, sugar, butter. Got it. All right, we're doing really well on this one. Okay. All right, very good. Okay, so again, the important part thing is this. If I'm talking about area, I don't need diameter, I need radius. And if the diameter is 18, the radius, remember, is half of that. So it's going to be 9. And if we start with 9 yards, okay, then we know what we can do. We can just say, all right, let's just put it in the formula. Area equals pi r squared. And you don't have to write the formula every time. Some of you are probably getting better at it where you can just go straight to the numbers. Okay. But this helps me to say, oh, I know, this way I know what to plug in. 9 squared and 3.14. All right. 9 squared is 81. So 3.14 times 81. We multiply that out. You should get 254.34 yards squared. Seem good? Yeah? Totally doable, yes? Okay, so if you think about towards your quiz that's going to happen in a few days, you have to be able to do circumference and you have to be able to do area using these two formulas. So let's do this. I'm going to give you a problem here where you're going to have to do both. I'm going to give you information and you're going to have to do both. Okay? Figure out the circumference and the area. So hopefully you remember yesterday's formula. If not, I can help you out with that. Let's say we had a circle. And let's say I gave you, we'll make it not too hard. Let's say we made this. Okay. Can you find both the circumference and the area? So I want to know the circumference and I want to know the area. All right, go for it. This is going to take a little bit of work. We have to try to remember our two formulas, the one from yesterday and the one from today, and then how to use them properly. And when you give me the answer, put C equals and then the answer, and then D equals, or sorry, A and equals, so I know which one you're talking about. You either do both of them at the same time or one at a time. Thank you, Madeline. Good job. Great job, Darlie. Yeah, if you can do this problem, you're going to be just fine on your quiz. All right, anyone else? right. So let's see. Let's do circumference first. Okay. Actually, here's what I would like to do first. This is what I recommend. Before you even do any of the work, I think you should define what C is, or what your diameter is and what your radius is. Okay. So I would say the diameter and the radius are what I should look at first. So first of all, is that 8 inches? Is that a radius or diameter? Well, remember it only goes halfway, so that's a radius, which means the whole way would be the diameter, 16. So now I know what I have here. So when I talk about the formulas that I use, I know what I need to plug in. All right. So this first formula is circumference is equal to pi times diameter. Okay. Pi times diameter. That's what we learned yesterday. So this is going to be circumference is equal to 3.14 times 16. So again, where did I get 16 from? Because remember, a diameter goes all the way across. So if the radius is 8, the diameter is 16. All right, I put that in my calculator, 3.14 times 16. And again, use a calculator. Don't try to do it by hand. It's a waste of time. I'm going to get 50.24 inches. What do you think? So far, so good? All right, for the area, I'm going to say the area is equal to pi times radius squared. Again, I remember squared because I want area. Square blocks make an area. Okay. All right, so that's going to be 3.14 times, again, here's my radius, 8 squared. All right, calculator time. 8 squared is 64 times 3.14. Here we go. And I get my area of my circle is 200.96 inches squared. And there we go. So on your quiz that's going to come up, this is what you need to be able to do. You need to be able to use these two formulas. C equals pi d, area equals pi r squared. If you can do these and just plug in the numbers correctly, then it's going to be a piece of cake, right? So again, the tricky part is this. Sometimes you might need the diameter, but I'm going to give you the radius. So you're going to have to find it. Sometimes you might need the radius, but I'll give you the diameter. So you have to find it. And then once you find the D or the R, it's just about plugging in the numbers, just putting it right into your calculator. Right? And that's, okay, so that's what we have to do for area of a circle.